Good evening, everybody. Good evening. We kind of touched on the theme the other night that's been kind of awakening something. Something's waking up. Um Wani has identified that Germanic lineage, we're not talking about Germans per se, we're talking about Germanic lineage. I forget which one, either the Anglos or the Saxons, um, are in leadership. I don't want to be hyperbolic and say in every um, culture in the world, but a whole bunch of them. Well, hell, Wani, are they cosplaying leadership? Are they have they infiltrated leadership in every sector of the planet? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Uh-oh, I got to hear this.
And it's like a hermit crab type of thing. So if you Google, is Princess Diana English, it's going to say, yeah, oh yeah, she was an English rose. She's English. Her family's name is Spencer. She's English. But you just have to scrape a little bit below the surface. They'll admit that the other side of her family is German, but they don't want to. So they fight for both sides to pretend that that's English. And since the Queen of England is German and is not an English person at all, she's just not English. None of them. Camilla, the other one that died, they're not English, but they're ruling England. Um, if you ask that question, it's just going to keep saying, yeah, she's English. She was born in English. So now you see where that African confusion stems from. Because if the Queen of England is not English and she's saying she's English when she's not, and everybody knows she's not, she had to change her name from Saxe Gotha to Windsor, like I said yesterday, because everybody got on her ass when Germans were dropping bombs on them. So she's fake, and she's got all these Africans coming over there saying that they're English. So I guess they're just as English as the Queen of England then. No wonder they're confused, because the leadership and the monarchy is bitterly confused. And I don't understand why the people in these countries let them do it. Because remember when the um, regions in Spain wanted to be their own country, and they said, or they're at least have autonomy. The Basque region, they're not even related to anybody on earth. They have Rh negative blood, so they should be able to be their own group. And another region in Spain wanted to be their own group, right? And guess who popped up out of nowhere?
Who?
Uh, one of the Habsburgs. You're not even Spanish. You're German. And the kingship has been told to shut up. They are not under a king. This king comes out of nowhere talking about, no, you can't be autonomous. What? Yeah, why are you talking? I thought we didn't have a king anymore. Oh, we have one now. Oh yeah, he jumped up out of nowhere, telling them what to do. He's not even Spanish. That is what the weird thing is, and nobody ever pushes back and tells them you're not even English. What are you talking about? I was shocked when they did do that with the Queen of England, though, when they told her, hey, your family is German and you guys are married to the SS and you're doing the Heil Hitler. What are you doing, lady? And she had to change her name. So they got on her butt real hard. Yeah, she had to bend the knee that time. But they just play this they're like hermit crabs. They just get up under these other identities all over Europe and then pretend to be those people, and the people go along with it. And that's what's so shocking. And the Africans think they can just move over to China and say they're Chinese. And they do have Chinese people saying some people in China are not like us. They're beating everybody down, and they're not those people's ethnicities. Just like John McCain was born in Panama, he's not Panamanian. He was born on a military base. It doesn't have anything to do with his ethnicity.
It reminds me of all this cosplaying. This is actually, it's funny, but it's kind of like deep. It's not actually not funny. This shit is old. This reminds me of Told Me One Laggy, who I think it would be fair to say that Told Me One, since he was related to Alexander the, I'm not gonna call that fucker great. We just gonna call that motherfucker Alexander today.
The Greek.
The Greek. There we go. Alexander the pedophile. Anyway, um, yeah, Told Me One became the first a pharaoh. He a pharaoh now. What's with all this cosplaying? I was somebody donated a book about um uh Castro, Fidel Castro, who I was just sure was a brown Hispanic man. And Castro, Fidel Castro had German lineage. What is this about, Wani? Please educate me.
They have taken over the world. I mean, they colonized everybody under those monarchs, those German monarchs, and I went one by one in each country. And oh my God, AI was fighting and kicking and scratching all the way down the line. Didn't want to admit that German people ruled every country in Europe and parts of everywhere else. Okay. Oh, on that one about Turkey, oh, I had AI on its bony knees. It was like, no, Turkey was under the Ottoman Empire. Yeah, okay. Nope, 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 nope. Those Germanic tribes went over there and pimp slapped Turkey too. They just, didn't really care enough to keep going. But Turkey is considered Europe when in fact it's not. It doesn't look like it or act like it at all. But just because they like it or they like something about it, they want to add it to the European. It's like on the border, they want to add it in there. But whatever, it is a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy that everybody in Europe is under Germanic rule and they have to deal with it. Now, they have pushed the monarchs back. Like we said, they fell out of favor. Places became, not under a king. Some of them want to have the king up there in a ceremonial way, like they do in the UK. But believe this, those people still have power and they still tell you what to do if it gets down to it, just like over in Spain when they said, no, you're not going to be your own area. Like, who are you? No one ever asks them, who are you? And get out. Deport them out of your country. They're not even your background. And they've been ruling you the whole time. That's just something that I find bizarre.
Yeah, why are we the only people talking about this? I've never even thought about that until you brought it up, but it's so true. If you dig behind deep leadership, even going back to the days of um, uh, the of Alexander and the Greeks used to be a Etruscan. They used to be jet black. You can find pictures and pottery and drawings of in Italy of the Etruscans, and they were, I mean, real black.
They had
Oh,
their own language, and when the others came down there, they had the Etruscan kings and they liked their artwork and they liked everything about them. But those people were, you know, of African descent and they were farmers over there in what is now Turkey. So they came from Africa to Turkey to, where we found them um, in southern Europe, in what's now Italy.
very interesting. This is warfare. This is domination on a global scale. Um, how are they getting away with this? How are they saying, you know what? I'm African. I'm a pharaoh. I'm
They're
Cuban.
they're doing exactly what the Africans do. They go over to a new place and say, "I was born here." No, but you keep that doesn't matter if you keep marrying German people and won't you're not marrying in with the local population. So you haven't stopped being German and you kept intermarrying to the point of your jaw falling off. Habsburgs. You
Yeah.
see?
Well, they in 16 in the 1600s, well 1500s, but 1600s especially, they got wise to this to that strategy. The world got wise rather, and they started a tactic of marrying royalty, really clever, marrying into, well, hell, I'm being generous. I'm saying marrying. How about raping into royalty? In my book, I identify that Amanute, that was her fucking name. It was not Pocahontas. Pocahontas was a pejorative. Her Pocahontas's father, Chief Powhatan, called her Pocahontas because her ass wouldn't listen. He told her to stop messing with Paleface. Um, and she kept messing with him. Daddy don't know what the fuck she was talking about until they kidnapped her for a year, locked her in a room and gave her a version of the Bible until she was brainwashed. Then they made a 15-year-old girl marry a 40-year-old man. That don't sound like the Disney cartoon, does it? Well, anyway, um, once Pocahontas got pregnant with that baby, they took that mixed race baby over to England and paraded her around that, and then killed Pocahontas. You know what I'm saying? But that was kind of giving rights to the land of what is now called Jamestown. So they do kind of intermix a little bit. Fidel Castro he had to be mixed with something because he was my color, but he had Germanic lineage. That's a way of infiltrating cultures. And you know who I think about more and more once we talk about this with mixing into different racial groups to with the objective of taking over culture, thereby taking over power or seats of power within culture. I think about Drake. You know, Drake the rapper. Is it fair to say that he's Germanic?
Lord,
Let's ask
I'm
his
about to tip
mammy.
over and die.
We gotta
If
check
you
his
don't stop,
mammy.
Professor, y'all need to stop.
I'm sorry. I think Drake's mammy is.
Well, Fidel Castro is Jewish. So
Mm,
there they go again,
my,
tag teaming the hell out of us.
So why are these people pretending to be something else, Monty?
I guess because people don't question it. Remember, Peru had a Japanese president for a long time, and he ripped him off. He was a con artist, and they kept trying to vote for him, even though he had already been the president a long time. I guess they're not smart, and they don't respect themselves, so they want others to lead. They
well,
they want to be led by others.
well, you know what? It's tactical, and you know what? It's low down and dirty, but it's smart. When I think about this, I think about strategy 31, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go back to the basics. Let's go back to the 33 strategies of war by our dear Robert Greene. Robert Greene says strategy 31 is to destroy from within. Greene says quote, by infiltrating your opponent's ranks, working from within to bring them down, you give them nothing to see or react against. The ultimate advantage. To take something you want, do not fight those who have it, but rather join them. Then either slowly make it your own or wait for a moment to stage a coup d'etat, like with Pocahontas. You see, she pregnant. She one of us. She got a baby. That baby's half English. Therefore, Jamestown is mine because I married a
So
princess.
that's the way the Mongols did it. Um, that's what they did. They made these marriages. I mean, that's common to marry people and to forge alliances through marriages. So they did that in the Ottoman Empire. They did that with the Mongols did that a lot so that they could get people to unite Asia. And so that's a tactic besides the raping people. That's a tactic to demoralize people. All of these are tactics of war and very much takeover. Plus, they exploited the culture of the Native American was to have like you could be you could explore sexually without having anything on your character. That's something that everybody may not know. It was normal for a young girl to explore sexual activities, and still she could go back to her tribe and marry whatever man she wanted. It wasn't looked down upon to do that. So she was doing what was normal for her tribe, and they took advantage of her.
Yeah, it's the ultimate strategy, ladies and gentlemen. The more I read about this, the more I think about Drake. Listen to this shit. According to Robert Greene, we're talking about strategy 31 again, ladies and gentlemen. Instead, the ultimate strategy is to seem to stay on the enemy side, burrowing deep into its heart. From there, you can gather valuable information, weakness to attack, incriminating evidence to publicize. Here, subtle maneuvers like passing along false information or steering your opponent into a self destructive policy. You can have large effects, much larger than anything you could do from the outside. The enemy's power becomes weapons you can use against it, a kind of turncoat armory at your disposal. It's hard for most people to imagine that someone who outwardly plays the part of a loyal supporter or a friend can secretly be a foe. This makes your hostile intentions and maneuvers relatively easy to cloak. When you are invisible to the enemy, there is no limit to the destructive power at your command. You know, become a rapper, get some success, say nigga a couple times or a couple thousand times, you know, even poke fun at, foundational Black American slavery in one of your songs, hint, hint, wink, wink. And when somebody comes against you out the blue, you try to sue them. Sounds like strategy 31 to me.
His mother is does have Germanic roots.
See,
She's Ashkenazi with Germanic roots.
Lord. Twizzle, what you think about this?
What's up, everybody? It's funny to me. Shout out everybody. What's up? Happy Hump Day. What's up, Professor? Hey, Nikki. Hey, Sister Ronnie. What's up with the room? Well, again, everybody. Is the Queen of England English? Are Germanics cross-playing everyone? Okay. Now, Sister Ronnie, didn't we talk about this before? About the Germanics? And I think me and you spoke about this before, Professor, when we talked about the Battle of Tottenberg when the Romans got massacred by the Germans. Didn't we talk about this, Professor? You know what I'm saying? And see,
We talked about a lot of Germanic things because this is, um, you know, an easily proven conspiracy. Not a conspiracy theory, but a conspiracy.
to a certain degree, but once you read history, you kind of get like, okay, because the all right. I never forget when I read about the Rome. I mean, when Julius Caesar first saw the Germanic tribes, the first thing he said was he thought he was in hell because he saw demons. He saw men covered in hair from head to toe with blue eyes and savage and barbaric and just animalistic. He tripped off that because he built the wall, I think 12 foot high, and he was watching them, and they were so wild and crazy. They just attacked the wall with sticks and stones and everything. We was just talking about it with that picture I put up the other day. But yet, when we go
Yeah, we
forward,
needed part two.
when we go forward, what you think the Vikings were? The Vikings were Germanic. They come from
They're
that
dramatic
Germanic.
too.
They come from that, that Scandinavian, that Germanic, the cave troller, that Europus. They come from that. You know what I'm saying? With that long blonde hair. See, Germanics have a particular feature. They have that long, straight blonde hair, look like spaghetti, and them deep blue eyes. Especially, I don't know what it is with Norwegians, but Norwegians have a particular type of blue eyes to where that shit look deep to where you like, you motherfuckers don't look human beings. The ones that have like the storm on their last name, or they have certain names to 'em. I'm very familiar with the Norwegians' names, and I can look
Strong.
at them and like, yeah, you look Scandinavian to me. You look either Finnish, Norwegian, Sweden or Geatland, or you look something like that. But you can be able to see their features through their dramatic trait, and that's where they all come from the dramatic tribe. And with the Queen of England, I remember when you was talking about her last name Windsor. That I think the last name Windsor go back to like the 17 or 1800s, but you're right because they had to change that name from the Saxon name because they wanted to get more on the, Charlemagne tip. They want to be more Anglo. And then that's when the House of Windsor, they was regarded as fools. They wasn't respected throughout the English monarchy, but somehow, some way, they got the crown and they got the title. So boom, they've been in history ever since. And the Queen of England, she is dramatic. You can see her features. She was blonde with them deep ass blue eyes. I think she was more no. I think she was either Danish. Her ancestry is either Danish or Norwegian.
They're all German.
Yeah,
They're all
they all them,
Germanic.
they all them motherfucking knuckle draggers covered in hair, but you know what I'm saying? I think that's what she is because I had a chef who was Scandinavian. He was from Norway and he hated them. He used to tell me about, the white beef. He was from Norway. He hated Swedish, he hated the Swedes, and he hated the Brits. He used to call
Why?
the Brits and Limes because
So they didn't like each other like Puerto Ricans don't like
yeah,
Mexicans? Was it kind
like
of like
this
that?
yeah, like he used to tell me the Norwegians were like they were like the third of all white people. The Swedes was the imperial of all white people. And then the British was like the second, and everybody hated them because they was the imperials. That's just like in the Asian community, everybody hate Japanese because the Japanese are the imperials. So in the white community, the Swedes are the number one. And like I don't even think I heard you even say this, Sister Wani. Swedish people don't consider nobody outside of Sweden or Germany white like the British people and Italians and the
Oh, I didn't
people down
say
there in
that.
Spain. I think I heard some. No, that was what you called it. That was. I'm sorry. That was Dr. Francis Quest Weston who
So they
said that. I
delineating too,
apologize.
Twizzle.
They've
So
been
they deline.
delineating. They've been
Wow.
delineating. That's why Sweden was never touched in World War I and World War II. You know what I'm saying? They was not touched. Norway, Finland, and Denmark was, but Sweden was not touched. You know what
Well,
I'm
I
saying?
did see a fight between a Norwegian and a Finn because somebody said, "Are you Finnish?" And the Norwegian guy said, "No," like really nasty, like, ugh. And then a guy that was Finnish started fighting him. And it was like, whoa, I didn't
They
know
beef
you
go
guys
back
had bad
thousands of
blood.
years.
Got bad
Yeah.
blood.
Because the Norway, that's where the Nords come from. The Northmen, he comes from them. You know what I'm saying? Then Swede, they had the geeks. Remember back in the days when dolphins used to be going off, you'd be like they geeking. That come from the south of Sweden. This real tribe of Vikings called the geeks. That's where the story Beowulf come from. But you know what I'm saying? This shit is deep, and we can say we can go on and on about these Germanics because they're a bunch of inbred fools who was barbaric, cannibalistic, and who had infatuation with, like you said, having relations with children. You know what I'm saying? So we can go on and
Yeah,
on
they were
about them.
filthy. Yeah, they're below the barrel filthy. So keep on talking, Twizzle.
But not
Keep on
only
going.
that, they
Keep
were
on teaching the people.
nasty. They were like nasty.
Yeah.
They were real cannibalistic. You know what I'm saying? They were real barbaric. They didn't bathe. They were like really covered in hair from hair to toe, infested with lice. Remember when Tariq talked about the story about the sign Bluetooth? Where the sign Bluetooth come from, aka Harold, the Bluetooth, the king. He never brushed his teeth, so his teeth
Yeah.
rotted out so bad to where
Yeah.
his teeth was like blackish blue. When you
Tariq
look at
did
it,
say that.
when you look at a lot of antiquity pictures, that's why
What?
they never smile because a lot of their teeth is black because they never brushed. They had no form of hygiene. You know what I'm
But I
saying?
thought they said they liked
He
rotten
laughing.
teeth. They said
Yeah,
they
they like
liked
it.
rotten teeth because it
Even
shows that
right
they
now
had the
to this
money to
day,
buy sweets.
even right now to this day. So we gonna let them keep having a rotten ass, funky ass breath. And when you have a conversation with them, you make sure they looking to the south while you looking to the north. You know what I'm saying? So you don't gotta smell that shit. Cause ain't nothing I hate worse more than a funky breath motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? I land my plane, y'all.
This is
Shout out
why
to the
this is
room.
why our people shouldn't be co-producing with them. You don't know who you're having a baby with. And what that child is going to turn out, what type of issues that child is going to turn out with. While you talking about you want you a light skinned white baby, you don't know who you having a baby with and what's going to come out of that child.
Preach.
Hey, sister, before I go, can I say this? Did y'all see that story on TikTok with that white girl who was in the military and she said she did not learn how to bathe until she got around black women in the military? She said that her
No.
mother taught
Yeah.
her that all she had to do was wash her hair. And once she washed her hair, the soap that ran down from her
Her
body
hair.
would wash her body. She said that. She said,
Just her hair.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
she said they said
disgusting.
that. She said that her mother taught her all
It
she
doesn't
had to
make
do
any
was just wash
sense.
her hair. Once she washed her hair, the soap that rinsed down from her hair would cleanse her body so she didn't have to do nothing else. She said she didn't learn how to clean her stouch until she got with black women in the military that taught her how to buy hella feminine products and hygiene shit. You know what I'm saying?
They say that they taught us how to bathe. They try to say they taught us how to bathe. See, I haven't
When?
traveled all over the world like Wani has. I haven't traveled all over West Africa like Professor has. Maybe y'all can tell us. Is it different? Do people bathe different in all of these different
Well,
places?
I'm
Do
gonna
people?
say France was real funky.
I keep
I
hearing
mean,
that.
oh my God, it didn't even make any sense. And they made some perfume to try to balance it out, but that doesn't work.
I'm not even gonna talk about West Africa because I'm not even gonna do
That
it.
plane was ripe. That's all I'm saying.
Smell like onions.
Was that it?
Yeah,
I
that's
can't
it.
remember the smell. I just wanted to get off. I was holding my nose, so I don't remember. But they had on some fur coats, and we know that that's not really African garb, but they were, flexing, wearing fur coats on top of funk is really not good.
Well, let's go back to some strategy, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look at the strategy. I saw Line Legal came up here and he ran off. Come on back up, Line Legal. Get some of this work. Well, the strategy, according to Robert Greene, strategy 31, Greene says, quote, it's hard to make your way in the world alone. Alliances can help, but if you're starting out, it's hard to get the right people interested in an alliance with you. There's nothing in it for them. Greene says the wisest strategy often is to join the group that can best serve your long-term interests. You know who that is already. That's Foundational Black Americans. Quote, or the one with which you have the most affinity. Instead of trying to conquer the group from the outside, you burrow your way into it. As an insider, you can gather valuable information about how it functions and particularly about its members, hypocrisies, and weaknesses. Knowledge you can use to wage your insidious or extra, no, I'm sorry, not extra, intra, intra organizational warfare. From the inside, you can divide and conquer. You know who that sounds like? What's that dude's name? Y'all help me out. He has a podcast and he gets rappers on there to snitch on themselves.
Blood.
Yeah. What's his lineage?
Russian?
Oh, I don't know. I was asking. I don't know.
I don't know. I can look it up.
But that sounds like,
I thought he was
Yeah,
Ukrainian.
hmm.
yeah, I'll look it up. I don't really know.
Yeah, but that's what it is. The real question is not why they're doing it. That question is easy to answer. It's effective, and it pays dividends. But the real question is, why do we let people inside of our world? What is that about?
I'm just shocked that they don't have any shame about the cosplaying and that the people they're cosplaying on don't mention it. Yeah, he's Ukrainian, by the way.
Is that's not
And
Germanic, is it?
no, it's Slavic, but maybe it could be. I mean, I don't know. They do a lot of moving around.
Hmm.
But that's the part that gets me because if we're talking to an African, a lot of people over in the UK will say they are English. And they were saying that Naomi Campbell was English. And I used to look at that, I would side eye that. Like, how is she English? It doesn't make any sense. But they've been letting them get away with it, especially if they're famous. And really, if they're running for them in the Olympics or doing some kind of sport for their country, they will call them English and Irish and but then when it comes down to it, they don't really want them there. So they're going to have to figure out what they want to do because they're allowing people to cosplay up to a point and kind of giving them, empowering them to do this. And then when the people start piling up and taking over the population, now all of a sudden they want to scream and cry on the internet. They did it to themselves. They should have laid down the law and said, You are not this ethnicity, you are an immigrant. And they didn't do it. I mean, German people allowed Jewish people to take all their names. I know why I have my name, and I know why Black Americans have the names that they have, but why do people immigrating to Europe have the same names as the people where they've immigrated to? That's a blatant try to cosplay or try to do something. You're not keeping your regular name. Why not? I don't understand it, especially if you're going to, live in your little enclave and do your little thing. Why do you have these Spanish names and these German names? And you're living up under these people, arguing and fussing with them and having differences of religions and ideologies in their countries. Why do you have their names? And you've done this. They didn't name you. You named yourself their names. And why did that happen in the Iberian area, in Germany, in Russia? They all have the same names of the people where they live.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I was thinking, our brother Tariq said something real powerful the other day. Um, I was reading a reversal, like a defense against this infiltration tactic, according to Robert Greene. Robert Greene says, quote, the worst mistake is to be paranoid, suspecting one and all of trying to monitor their every move. Your only real safeguard against conspiracy and saboteurs, listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, is to keep your troops satisfied, engaged in their work, and united by their cause. They will tend to police themselves and turn in any grumblers who are trying to foment and trouble from within. It is only in unhealthy bodies that decaying bodies that cancerous cells can take root. So the way these people infiltrate different groups is to create dissension and discord from within. So we need to be real careful about these people coming in our groups, coming in our music, and creating discord and dissension. Because once you get us doubting each other, then you can slip in and take root like a parasite. What you think about that, Black Truth?
Salute Professor Allen. Salute Sister Nikki, Sister Wani. Yeah, they shut down my other account, so I'm locked out of that
For
account for now.
what?
I don't know. I don't know. I
For
think
one
someone
You
got
hour?
didn't
upset.
do anything.
Yeah, I really don't do anything,
Wow.
but you know, I'll see if it gets reinstated. They said they'll get back to me by the 5th. But anyway, let me address the topic of the room. Was the Queen of England English? You all probably covered this earlier. I wasn't here for the beginning of the space, but I know that the quote unquote royal family of England is heavily tied to the Germans. In fact, I know they changed their name from what they're going by now to a name that sounded more Anglo. So they're definitely, I would say, at least half of their relatives are Germanic. So yeah,
Yeah,
most definitely.
they're all Germanic, and they keep marrying other Germanic people and pretending,
Mm,
like with Princess Diana. And I don't have anything against Princess Diana, but she's she's Germanic on both sides, including the Spencer side that they keep trying to say is English. It's not. That's a Norman name. So she's she's Germanic. Just say that. It just looks weird to be ruled by Germanics all over. We already know that they're controlling all of the monarchies. Therefore, they're the reason that everyone got colonized. You can't do both. You can't be the leader of every monarchy and then pretend like you have nothing to do with everybody being colonized because you did. And trust me, Europe would not look the way it looks with that architecture, those big, beautiful churches. They wouldn't have that if they hadn't colonized everybody, starting with people around them. So even though you can say, well, the Russians didn't, specifically colonize anyone, or this one didn't and that one didn't, but they're all monarchs and they get that money. They distribute that money. So it doesn't matter if the Queen of England was the face of the colonist, or the Spanish were the face of the colonist. The other countries have it too. We know the faces, the French, the Spanish, the English, and a few others. We know the main ones, but don't think that the Hungarians didn't get a cut of it. They have the same nice architecture as everybody else. Don't think that those other countries that you don't hear about a lot didn't get their share, that they were Germanic ruled and they got money.
Oh yeah, yeah, very true. Black Truth, you had a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I want to remind everyone about the quote unquote Holy Roman Empire, or Holy, what was the exact name of that one? They
Papal
had,
States, Holy Roman Empire,
yeah, it was essentially Germany. I mean, when you look on a map,
Germanic. Yeah,
it
they're
covered
Germanic.
it covered Germany, but remember, the Pope was in charge pretty much of that entire empire, and he was able to set up monarchs. So he would go through hand selecting, hand picking those who he wanted to rule all over Europe. So he would say, "Oh, you over there in Italy, eh, you're a little bit too mulatto. You have this bloodline, or I don't want you to rule here. Yeah, you don't get my approval." So he would hand select individuals, and despite what people may believe, the UK, what we know as the UK, was once a Catholic place. It was once ruled by the Catholics, meaning it was in charge, meaning the Pope was over it. It wasn't until one of the kings wanted to marry someone who was Presbyterian or something. You essentially wanted to cheat on his wife,
Henry VIII.
and yeah, and then he changed his his religion and everything, and ousted the Catholics, and they tried to come back, and it's a whole thing. But just know that while those popes were in charge, they were placing people in strategic positions also through the banking system, because it wasn't just through control of the governments, they also had to control the banks. And when I hear about Germanics cosplaying everyone, I don't know about everyone, but they certainly do have a grasp on quite a few industries. And I think it is worth looking into, because a lot of people want us to focus on the small hats. The small hats, they're everywhere, the small hats. When in reality, a lot of individuals do have Germanic ties. So, with that all, Lance, thank you.
That's so interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Black Truth just brought to my attention that Henry VIII probably was of Germanic lineage, and if that is correct, I'm sure Wani will let me know if it is. If that's correct, we've linked another tragedy in human life to Germanic, and that tragedy would be divorce. You see, Henry VIII wanted to cheat on his woman. And the Catholic Church said, nope, thou shalt not commit adultery. So Henry VIII was informed that he's the king, he's the highest authority. And since the Catholic Church would not allow him to cheat on his wife, he got rid of the Catholic Church and installed them with the Church of England, which still functions to this day. They control quite a bit of real estate in the United States, but that's another point. That's not this topic. But Henry VIII created, drum roll, divorce. How many of that us has that shit affected? Well, anyway, Henry VIII also created also created a cuss word. What cuss word is that? Well, it's interesting. The cuss word that you know so well had to deal with the letter that you would have to write Henry VIII to cheat on your wife. You would have to write a letter that had an acronym on it. The acronym was Your Majesty, I would like to fornicate. That's F. under, that's you.
Oh, you know about MF?
Nope. Fornication under the
Oh.
consent of the king. What that spell?
Fuck.
Fuck. If a fuck was a letter that you wrote to cheat on your wife, and if the king gave it his stamp, your fuck got approved. Fornication under consent of the king. Germanics created the word fuck and divorce.
These people are weird to me. I'm sorry.
They've destroyed everything. Black truth.
Well, he's of Germanic lineage, but they're doing the same thing that they did with Princess Diana. They're like, oh, he was born over here, and oh, Welsh, and just throwing up all kind of new identities. Um, he has connections to the House of Lancaster and the House of York. His direct Germanic lineage is not a prominent part. See, they're trying to act like it doesn't count if we don't really talk about it a lot. No, it's you're still related to those people. That doesn't make any sense. You can't not, even if we don't care what you talk about, and we don't care where you were born. We care if you're related to those Germanic people so that we can put two and two together. That's all we're doing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And we have to identify. Remember, the first step to solving a problem is identify. The doctors call it diagnosis, right? Black truth, what's on your mind?
Yep, I just wanted to remind everyone, you all have talked about this in multiple spaces, but the a lot of the degeneracy also comes from these Germans. When you talk about the psychologist, I don't know his exact name,
Freud.
but he's responsible. Yeah, Freud. He's the one who is responsible for spreading all kinds of weird ideologies on people, which are used,
Sexology.
which are used as a basis for a lot of academia. That's how you have pseudo scholars, not really intelligent people, but people who say 14 syllable words and sound articulate, but what they're spewing out of their mouth is complete garbage. And they're put into these institutions and put over children and key positions as well. And also, a lot of the pornography came directly from Germany. They had, I believe, the first sex toy, or what is it called? What would you call it? Just a sex store
Wow.
for pornography. Yeah, so that
I need
that's
to
that
find out
actually,
about that.
yeah, that
I don't know
originates
that.
in Germany. They have the first one, unless someone can find one earlier. But I'm pretty sure that that's where it came from. So when you look at the crossovers between that culture and what we have here in the U.S., like in California, yeah, they have their ties to a lot of the things that we're seeing in the quote unquote West. But I'll go ahead and land right
Do
there.
you remember the year? Because this says that it opened in 1962. Are you referring to something older? It is described as the world's first official sex shop. Is that the one you mean?
That's probably the one. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna look into that one.
A lot of that came right from Germany. The first cartoons, all that kind of stuff. Just sick pedophile type stuff. But anyway, let me drop down and let someone else speak. Peace to the room.
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate you, Black truth. Well, pornography did originate after the Germanics took over Etrusca in Greece. There are uh, hell, I don't know what you call them. Almost like I would say not hieroglyphics, but paintings on the walls in Greece from ancient Greece that are so fucking graphic that they might as well be in Hustler magazine. You know, pornography, and it was same-sex pornography. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just identifying what it was and what it is. It's still there. What is this all about? Why is all this alternate views on life? Why is that originating? Well, let me say, seeming to originate amongst the Germanics. That's my question. I want to know root causation. What's going on here?
It looks like they will study something, like they'll say, hey, let's study human sexuality. And then the other groups, the immigrants there, will just, take the ball and run and just, oh, let's study sexology. Everybody should just lay up in the streets and have sex and be nomads and be bohemian and just hang out and just free love and sexual liberation. They just ran with it. So, and then of course, they didn't like that because that goes against, normal life. And you have people laying in the streets doing drugs and drinking and having going to that destitute hotel to have sex with men like Hitler was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go in on his butt. But I guess it's an overcorrection. They may bring these topics up in kind of like a clinical way, and then the other groups run with it. They're always at odds with these countries that they've immigrated to. They don't like the way that the countries run, and they don't have their own country to do things their way. So that's what it looks like. Their argument has spilled out over here because they were trying to do all of these things, like I said, protest the government, don't want to get married, don't want to conform to anything, just lay around at the park, be an urban nomad. They romanticized bohemianism, which was thought to be about gypsy life, caravans, not having to be responsible for anything. They romanticized that because they thought that uh, Romani people or gypsies came from Bohemia, but they didn't. They came from India, but and then they thought they came from Egypt. So they're very confusing people to people, but we know now where they came from. But back then they thought they came from Bohemia, so they called it like a Bohemian lifestyle. But they didn't come from Bohemia. They were new in town. But all of these people, the Romani people and the Jewish people, they didn't like the way things were done in their adopted countries. They didn't like the way things were going. They wanted to do things their way. And so they became at odds with Germany. And then they just ended up over here doing these things over here and blending it in like we all want to do these things. And these are things that a lot of these things are, they look like fun, but I'll tell you the difference between the movements that we've had. We had hip hop movement and we had the Harlem Renaissance. Those things don't feature sex. They feature music and art. Okay. But when they have movements, they get obscenity charges. They end up going to court to fight to have, to normalize pornography. They go to court to do all kinds of things. They have taken advantage of our free speech laws, our privacy laws, and our civil rights laws. That's why they keep crawling up under us. All of the things that they want to do that go against normal societal norms that they couldn't get away with over in Europe, and they kept getting run out of town on a rail, they brought it over here for us to argue about and fight about when we really didn't have all these problems before these two groups came over
Nope,
here.
sure didn't. What are your thoughts, Carrie?
And by the way, they started coming over here late 1800s. They started running away because they could see the attitude against their BS was rising. And so people that had that counterculture, subculture mindset, they wanted to do sex change operations. They want to have all these sexual liberation or whatever they want. They wanted to do drugs, even coming over here, pushing to have sex work be legalized, to have addictive drugs be legal, all the things they wanted to do, they found a space to do it here. Even though we did have people that pushed back on them, they were able to hermit crab themselves under people from America or more American than them and pretend like, oh, we're all just group of hippies. But no, when you look at who's doing this, it's immigrants is who's doing it. Regular Americans do have attitudes of not wanting to conform, but not to that level, not to the level that the new immigrants that came over here beginning in the late 1800s have displayed.
Right, right, right. I always viewed it as some type of form of warfare because if you analyze the effects, these ideologies have damn near destroyed our family units. Look at the Black American family. Look at where we are. One of these ideologies was feminism, and I need not bore y'all on what the effect feminism had on our family unit. You know what I'm saying? Right on.
Hey, Carrie,
Hey, Carrie, what's up?
where is she?
Um, oh, she dropped down. Carrie, you can come back up if you want and speak. But yeah, I'm looking for causation. Like where did this I've linked the Germanics to like the that culture to Babylonian culture. And the Babylonians broke apart from the Egyptians. And ladies and gentlemen, it all seemingly is a spiritual thing. The Egyptians worshipped the God one or one God. They believed in the Holy Trinity, which now can be, uh, I don't want to piss anybody off, but let's just say it's very similar to Christianity. The Aset, Asar, Heru, Father, Son, and Mother, the feminine principle, masculine principle, and the child coming out of that union. In essence, the Egyptians thought the family was divine, and the Germanics destroyed that ideology.
Now, we were supposed to talk about does everybody have a soul? But that didn't fit in the title.
What you?
Are we going?
No, what I missed what you said. My thing broke up. What'd you say? One?
I said we were supposed to discuss does everybody have a soul?
Oh Lord, that didn't make it to the.
And it didn't fit in the title,
Yes,
but you kind of brought it up.
yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So I did bring it up. That well, second part of the title that didn't make it. I'm about to put it in there. Is does everybody have a soul? This was inspired. This was inspired by one of my undergrads last year. He said, Dr. A, I work with, and this came out the blue, mind you. He said, I work, for fast food. And he said, my manager is from the dominant society and he don't move like us. He said, he said his manager gets to work exactly at the same time on the second every morning, and he has the same exact routine. He goes here, he collects money, he says basically the same thing, he moves the same way. And he said, Dr. A, he said, I think certain groups of people are NPCs, and I didn't know what the fuck he meant by NPC. And I went home, I looked that shit up, and ladies and gentlemen, NPC stands for non-player character.
Oh my goodness.
like
See, that's funny.
like in a fucking
Like
video game. Like in a fucking video game, like the things that's walking around that ain't you.
now the reason that I wanted to do the room on that was because I was reading about each group's view about their soul, right? So the Egyptians say the soul is in nine parts, and one of them stays with the body, and some other ones go over here, and these other parts of the soul go there. Now, in the voodoo tradition, um, they have the little good angel and the big good angel. So, what the priest does is turning you into a zombie. He lures your big good angel out of your body and puts it in a vessel. And then the part that animates you, that stays in and it doesn't have your personality. It's just a drone. It's just walking around doing whatever. And then this priest or Boker can make the zombie do whatever it
Wow.
wants. It's like controlled. And This is very interesting because so many cultures have this attitude about the soul. And so this could explain why so many people encounter white people and just do whatever they say. So if the white people come up to them and say, yeah, you should kill 10 million people over here or 30 million, why do they just mindlessly do it? It's like they don't have that part of the soul, but they're animated. So they're walking around looking like everybody, but they're not reacting normally like, what? Oh my God, who are you, man? I'm not going to kill everybody in the village just because you randomly came over here and did it. There must be some explanation why so many huge amounts of people are animated. They're living a life, they're eating and drinking because they're alive, but something is missing. Some part of them is missing. And I keep looking at them, looking in, like I've looked in the faces of cannibals, and there is something missing. And I can see that in certain people's
Is it
faces,
is it
and
in the
especially,
is it in the eyes wanting?
oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is in the eyes. It's just something, they're just looking off somewhere. I don't know where they're looking, but something is off. And I'm not sure that they have all the parts of the soul. Now, I don't know whether the Egyptians are right about the 9 parts. I don't know whether the voodoo practitioners are right about the 2 parts. I don't know.
Well,
You know what I'm
I know
saying?
exactly what you're saying. That's very interesting. Me and the old lady watched a movie the other night called Talk to Me. And if anybody's seen it in here, that movie scared the shit out of me. But it was a movie about some ancient relic that had connections to the spirit realm. It was a hand. And if you grab the hand and you grab the hand, you would see entities walk around and you could talk to them and give them permission to enter you. And it was like what you said, Wani, you were animated by something, by an entity that wasn't you and did not have good intentions. Well, what you just said really hits a nerve. I mean, it really makes sense in a way. Earlier, the other day, I brought up Credo Mutwa. Credo died several years ago, but Credo was from what's now Zimbabwe, but he was older. He was from
Rhodesia.
Rhodesia. That's it. And Credo was in an ancient order of priests in that area. And he said it was passed down through oral tradition to him that the a group of Germanics, he's Credo, according to Credo, was the Illuminati. That's the exact word he said, which we link back to Germanics. Came through Africa and went all across the world seeking out shaman, people who knew stuff, finding out all their information through torture and coercion. And once they get the information, they would brutally kill the priest and the keeper of knowledge. It was said that some of the priests actually killed themselves, so that thank goodness the all the information wasn't given up. But long story short, there are certain techniques that you can gain access to souls. What I'm trying to say before I ramble is that I was I had a weird experience. I was looking at his name's Credo. Credo, my jumbotron. I don't know if somebody don't want me to look stuff up, but it's Credo. It's CRE. I'm gonna type it. CREDOMUTHWA. Credo Mutwa. I'm putting it in a jumbotron, and I'll put a link in the chat in a moment. But basically, uh, what was I saying? There's I went to well, I guess I shouldn't. I'm not going to say that on Spaces, but let's just say I went to a government function, and somebody brought up witchcraft, and I was like, I've spent a lot of time in West Africa, and I was saying, you know what? Um, why does witchcraft never make it? Why don't they talk about this stuff in America? Because one of my favorite things in West Africa is to sit in a hotel and watch the news. Because in Ghana and Togo on the news, they'll have like really no shit, like like they have a murder here, like there was a shooting in the street. They be talking about voodoo and so cast a spell, and it just dawned on me. And last time I was in West Africa, I was like, holy shit, this is real. Wait a minute, spells and shit is real. Add that plus some of the footage I got that some of you know about. I know that the spirit world is very real. Let's leave it there. Well, I was at a government function and that came up through one of my colleagues, and I was like, I just innocently said, I wonder. I was like, man, why don't we get any of that news about people, casting spells and doing witchcraft in the states? And one of my colleagues just politely said, because they're using it in the United States and they don't want you to know that they're using it on you. I was like, oh shit, there it is. The Germanics are into witchcraft. That's what that is.
Oh Lord, they love it. Remember, they have a whole arm of the Nazis dedicated to it. But they, like, if you ask about what's the deal with the Vril Society and the Thule Society and all this, they'll say, "Oh no, that was blown up. They weren't really into that." Really? They had a whole arm, uh, a branch of the SS about it, about all of that. So how are they not into it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, they're into it all
Who
right.
are all these people trying to come
We're,
up?
we're getting bombarded by a bunch of people. Come on
Yeah.
up. I want to see this.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Did you
I
come
got.
and give me some smoke?
I was taking a hit. I got a question about. You guys are from England, right? I have some English.
Yes, I'm
We're
English, sir.
playing.
I speak English. I speak
Spoken
English, but
to.
I'm a foundational Black American.
I'm
As a
a
female.
foundational tea sipper, sir.
Well, I have a next door neighbor who's a little small, older, white lady, nice lady, but
Mm-hmm.
but she's always like making comments to my girl about like why do you let your man talk to all these women and shit like that. You feel me? You get what I'm
No,
saying?
no.
Not at all, bro.
Talk
Okay.
to him how?
Like
Talking in
we
the
live on
neighborhood, saying
we live on
hi, or
Hollywood Beach, all right, and it's spring break right now.
and you say hi to general women that are out.
Of course I do.
And she
young.
doesn't, and the random old like white lady is mad about it. That doesn't make any
She
sense.
always has a comment, like,
Well, she's all in your business. Tell her to get out your business.
all right, I want you to say it. She's on the way over here right now.
Okay, I'll tell her to stop. You're
See,
messing up
see,
Tell
the.
her
there.
hurry
They're
up.
trying to talk about ghosts, and you're talking about old white ladies. How does that work? You
I don't
want
know.
to
I'm
tell us
just.
about? You
That
want to
must
tell
be
us
one
about
fat
some?
lady. She's moving slow.
Is she over there yet?
No, she's not. And my girl is sleeping on the couch.
Uh-oh. You think she'll allow that?
Well, she's pretending like
She's
she's
all in your business.
But
She
here's
may
what's
not want
happening.
your girl to take naps.
She was drinking all day with her, and I get the feeling she was talking shit.
This
So
old woman was drinking with your girlfriend?
yeah, yeah, just
Oh no,
by
you
the
gotta
pool bar.
separate them. You gotta
With
separate them real quick.
well,
That's problem right
I
there.
have a hunch. I think this old chick is a lesbian.
She's trying to make a move.
A move on who? Me? That's what my girl thinks.
No, the girl.
A move on who? My girl?
Yep.
I don't know. My woman disagrees. She says she's always commenting on her weight. She don't even want to talk to her no more. It makes her feel bad.
Wait, she called her fat?
Not fat that come work out with me and shit like that.
That sounds weird.
Yeah. So, what's this have to do with the Queen of England?
I have no idea what
I don't know. I'm just getting
Now let's
general.
get back to these souls. Now, here's what we were going to talk about. We were talking about people walking around animated, but not really having a real soul. You know what I'm saying?
NPCs.
NPCs. And here's an example of one example that really stood out to me. This woman's name is Dorothy Eady, Eady. Now, she fell down when she was a little girl, right? She fell down and died. The doctor came in and said, sorry, your daughter is dead. But when he came back to do the paperwork, Dorothy was sitting straight up on the bed. She wasn't dead anymore. And she was saying, I want to go home. Where am I? Okay. Now, so she just went on like that from a little girl, like, I'm not at home. I want to go home. What's going on? And her mother was like, you are at home. So they just thought because she fell down, she must have hit her head or something and she was just off a little bit. But they took her to the museum and she saw Egyptian artifacts and lost her mind.
Wow.
Started screaming about she needed to go to Egypt. So guess what? When she grew up, she went over to Egypt. She could read all the hieroglyphics. Nobody
Wow.
can do that. She could speak what the hieroglyphics were saying. Nobody can do that, right? So she became a big time, well, they call her a folklorist. She was a caretaker over there. Whenever she would point at something, because they were still digging up artifacts, and she said, there's a big, beautiful garden over there. Dig that up. Everything that woman said to dig up, it was real. There was something there. She was never wrong, ever, about where she told them to dig. And they just stopped questioning her and just immediately dug wherever she wanted them to. So the point is it looks like some long dead Egyptian woman found an opening in this little girl in England who died and jumped in her
Wow.
body and just took it over because the little girl, her personality and everything about her ceased to exist. And this woman was, now, here's one thing that stood out to me. She didn't speak in this Egyptian dialect when she woke up. She was speaking in English about not being at home. But you have to look at her story, it's pretty convincing. And for her to know that much, she married an Egyptian man, and he didn't think she was a good mother because she wouldn't do anything except she wouldn't stop talking about Egypt and things over there. And she didn't pay him any attention. And she had a child and took the child over to hang out inside those, you know, on the site. She wasn't a very good mother because she was never at home. But anyway, she was obviously obsessed. But it makes me wonder if her big angel, as they would call it in the Haitian tradition, in the voodoo tradition, the big little angel, which was that Egyptian woman, may have jumped into that little girl that just lost her soul and just continued animating her for the rest of her life. I just thought that was weird, and it's also interesting
Be right
because
there though. How did she happen to be right where that girl was though?
I don't know how these souls float around. Maybe they look for an opening. Maybe they want to reincarnate in another way. I don't know how it works, to be honest. But um, another thing, we have a lot of geoglyphs on the planet, and people wonder how they made those because you can't see it from above, like over the Nazca lines and other things. You can only see the design if you're up in the air, and presumably nobody was up in the air, they didn't have planes at that time. But I thought about a way that people could see what was over, what from a view from above, they could astral project. And remember, all of those shaman are always going out of their bodies and astral projecting. And maybe that's how they could see these things from overhead. There's a lot of things going on with you. And this is why a lot of shamans say don't astral project, because you don't want to leave your body and then somebody could jump in
Oh,
like that.
wow.
That's why the shaman told me not to do it, because I was like, what, like, is how do you do it? I was only able to do it 1 second. It felt like my insides were coming out. So it's pretty bad. It's pretty intense. But they don't want you to do it because that was a big thing. It's not as popular now, but it was very popular about 10 years ago, and everybody was trying to do it, and people were doing it and reporting what they could see outside. One guy jumped into some cats behind the dumpster and just was out in some cat's body running around in the alley. That didn't sound like fun. But he said he could run and he was, animating this cat. Sounds like a video game, and I don't really want to be in an alley cat, but whatever. Let's go into the hands and stop going on it. Go ahead, Church of Black Power.
Salute, 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 Professor. Salute to Wani, my spirit animal. You already know. Salute, Miss Nisi. You already know as well. Um, I just got finished listening to one of the spaces that you guys were having about the moon and how that was a situation of sin and all this. And it's kind of funny to me because I studied ancient mysteries for a while since I was a kid, and that's absolutely correct. But another thing is that a lot of the ancients, especially within Kemet, they practice duality, and so even with people who worship the moon or whatever sin, right? If you really look at the duality of even within Christianity, because Christianity is just an offshoot of Kemeticism, right? Jesus actually represents the sun, right? And so when the Pope has a walking stick, right, where it has a sun on it and it says IHS, right? And that's supposed to represent the original name for Isis or Jesus or whatever the situation is. And one of the situations that he said was that he basically he died in order to take away the sin, right? So the sun dies in metaphysics, right? The sun dies every single day in order for the moon to rise, and vice versa, right? And in metaphysics, it kind of teaches that um, you can't have one without the other, right? If you have the sun for too long, you'll burn up. And then if you have the moon for too long, you'll freeze. And so I thought it was very interesting that you guys spoke on that in the last one. And I really, really look forward to whenever you guys do another space on that. But just to touch on what you guys are speaking on tonight about the soul situation, our brother Bobby Hemmett, one of the things that he said that always stayed with me is that he said melanin is the seed of the soul. And he spoke about how there's two different things, and even within the ancient, Kemeticism, it speaks about, the Ka and the Ba. So there's the spirit and there's the soul.
Yeah, they're two different things, right?
There's two different things, absolutely. And so one of the things that I just loved about learning that is I was able to actually look at all these different people across the world that seem not to have a soul, but to have the fire of the spirit. And that was another thing from the last chat that I listened to with you guys, where our brother was talking about the fire, the fire, the fire. The fire represents emotion when it comes to metaphysics, right? But it also, you can look at how the kinetics used it. When you look at the pyramid in itself, it means fire temple, right? So these are all things that we all gamble with, I guess you can say, in that sense. But when it comes to those other folks, there is more evidence that there is more of a spirit in them. And that's why they're so willing to war all the time rather than the Ba, which is the soul, the seed of melon, or well, the melon and the seed of the soul. So I kind of believe, and I'm gonna be 100% with you, not everybody have a soul, everybody has a spirit. And how that's used will reverberate across the world, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, outstanding. So Wani brought up the real society. I had to search through my library to find the appropriate book. But the real society was German, a German circle of occultists. Um, According to the scholarship, it says the Nazi occult connection built this brief reference to a claim that the organization renamed Vril Society. Now, notice it said rename. They keep renaming stuff to confuse people. Was closely affiliated with the Thule or Thule, I'm not sure what the pronunciation, and the Nazi hierarchy itself, and played an important role in the Third Reich's plans for world domination. So you got Germanic people wanting to take over the world who were involved heavily into seance, into spirituality, into um, stuff that they shouldn't be fucking with. This scholarship says the Nazis in contact with the occult forces. Occult means hidden, ladies and gentlemen, and reverse engineering alien technology from the Aldebaran to equip the Third Reich with flying saucers. The reality of the real society was a good deal less impressive. Its formal name, I can't pronounce that. Um, one of the hundreds of little occult societies in Weimar, Germany. So, what the point I want to get across is these people have hundreds of occults. That's the secret that we're looking for, ladies and gentlemen. The Germanics are in touch with uh, what's a good way to say this?
They're summoning entities.
Yes, there it is.
Real quick, absolutely. One of the things about the mustache man, he was very keen within the occult. So another thing that you guys spoke about in the last space that you guys did was talking about the situation with how they flipped the swastika backwards. That's because of the fact that the mustache man, he was deep into the occult, and that's one of the
Yeah, I heard that too.
occultic
Yes.
symbols that he took from what he learned from the occult, because that symbol actually goes back to ancient Africa, even before the Cometics. That symbol has always been there. It's like it's a symbol that kind of means all four seasons, but it also means, like, metaphysically, it means body, mind, spirit, and then soul. You get what I'm saying? So him learning a lot of this information, he took a lot of that ancient Cometicism that he learned, just like a lot of these, napkin folks did, and then he weaponized it. And that's why he had that backward symbol the way it was. It's a sigil, basically.
Now, you were saying that he wanted to take over, the Germans wanted to take over the world. They already did. So what are they doing? They already colonized everybody. Germanic people already did that. So like, stop. You're colonizing your colonized.
Well, Wani,
What's wrong with them?
I've heard something a little deeper. That's kind of terrifying. If y'all want to know, what we just established is that the Germanics were involved with the Vril Society and Novo Order Templi, and um, the book said hundreds of occult organizations. Hundreds. That's a fucking lot of evil spirit worship. Well, anyway, what somebody told me um, years ago was this: not the Germanics, it's the entities of which you speak. These entities want access to the halls of Amenti or heaven. They want access to dimensions that we have access to, and they're trying to get, like, this isn't even about us. This is a spiritual thing. They want to access to a realm that's forbidden to them, and they're using us to try to figure out how they get there. And the Germanics they're just tools. They're being used. What do you think about that, Mr. Freedom?
How y'all doing, everybody?
What's up, bro?
Um, I wasn't sure. I didn't think y'all was gonna continue on this today. This is nice. Um,
Yeah, because sometimes when we say we're gonna talk about something the next day,
it'd be
there be
totally
something
different.
else come up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, no. Professor was right on it. he was hitting the nail on the head, and I get why he has a little apprehension to kind of fully say what it is. Um, I'll give a small piece. Um, I'll give a small piece of it. So he talked about the word occult, right? And that means hidden, but it's actually that's a reversal too, because what they do in the occult is they actually obscure things, and they try to make it more difficult and make it seem like it's so. It's just the most difficult thing in the world, and you have to um, figure this out, and it's the hardest thing ever. And honestly, it isn't. Um, the funny thing is when you're dealing with these people who've gotten to the highest level, uh, it's the most simplest conversations you'll have. I'll give you an example. Whenever you see that three archway entrance all over the world, you'll see temples all over the world. It's called I may not be saying it correctly, but trippage. Okay, all it's talking about is these people that are trying to get back into heaven, which they were cast out of. There's some mutations. We're still talking about gravitations of human. And heaven is the soul, the body, soul of man, Solomon's temple, right? So that three archways is just it's your mouth, it's your urethral canal, and the anus. It's the entrance into the human body. It's the three major openings of the human body. These things are so simple that it's scary when you actually know what it is. It's not that deep. I'll give you another example. When you see a crown on a head, like you see a thorn crown, it's actually talking about where a meteor strikes. It's like observing where a meteor strikes and the minerals that come from it. It's like just the all the debris that comes up that explosion. So it's interesting. They put stuff like that in movies like Black Panther. But anyway, to kind of get I wrote out a little something. I posted some things. So I'm gonna get on subject. Um, so there was an episode of Joe Rogan with Eric Weinstein. I pay attention to some of these things. It was edited out of this episode. And to answer your question, Wani, to answer your question, why these people want to do this stuff? Why are they so interested in domination and control and further social engineering and everything? I'll give you the simple answer. Around it used to be in there around an hour and 2 minutes. Or wherever he was talking to Joe Rogan about the atom bomb. Okay, we know who created that. There's this concept in Judaism called tikkun olam. I'm probably saying that wrong too, but it loosely translates to repairing the world. And he said in there, and it's been edited out. I wish I saved it. Eric Weinstein said, this was episode 1945. He said their goal was to try and make the world perfect. So everything was wholesome. All the media, which they, you know, in some ways control, everything was good. Everything was wholesome. Everything was nice, and they tried to use all the magic tools to make everyone benevolent. And the reason for doing it was they wanted to try to make at that time they wanted to make Christ return. So it's like, okay, well, humans are good, they're benevolent, we've used our magic spells and we've made them good. Okay. And they gave up on that. I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said they gave up on that and he said, no, we're going to turn and we're going to make the Antichrist come. And what we're going to do is we're going to pump evil into the world. We're gonna push sex and abortion and and everything is destruction. And he literally said this. I was listening. I was like, yep, yep. And I was surprised he said that because that's something that is hidden. That's something that's a guarded secret. What he described on that episode. It might still be in there, but I tried to listen to it back and I couldn't hear it again. But it's spelled Tikkun. The next word is Olam. Look that up. They're reversing that. I'll read it real quick. What it says about, just to give you an idea. It's a Hebrew phrase. It's a foundational concept of Judaism that emphasizes the responsibility of individuals to contribute to the betterment of the world through acts of kindness, social justice, and ethical behavior. At its core, Tikkun Olam reflects the idea that the world is imperfect or broken and that humans play a role in fixing it. Well, how big of you? So I bring that up because one of the things that CERN is doing, and I just seen a video about this, is specifically in the Bible where it says that the devil was cast into the exact place is where CERN is, and they're trying to open up a portal. Like, these people are literally trying to do everything in their power.
What are they going to be opening up the portal through? If you don't mind me asking, can you explain? Where does the portal go through?
The Loch Ness monster's going to come out.
I love the levity. Thank you so much.
Well, the important thing to keep in mind is CERN is located in Vienna,
Austria.
and what type of people exist in Austria?
Mhm.
Oh,
They're trying to bring what they're basically doing is trying to bring Thanos.
Bohemia.
Yes, yes. The whole Revelations, their goal is to force that to happen. That's literally their goal, is to force those events to happen in any way possible. And again, it's possible with their control of the medium. If and especially what they're doing with this technology, it's funny to watch everything switch, because the people that want to be like us, because we're looked at as ultimate freedom, right? Especially the type of slavery that we got out of. So everybody's starting to emulate and act like us, and we're kind of shifting and moving to a different place. But it's just they're going to try to control us through this cybernetics and all this kind of stuff, and that's a part of what they're trying to do. It's like a game that they're playing. They want to control our body. It's like Agent Smith wanting to download into the real world. Is the best way I could put it. And that's it. It was supposed to be a black man. It was supposed to be Will Smith. So I don't know. I think I'll just I'll leave it there, and hopefully that answers the question.
I was just going to say, I don't, get carried away with this type of information. So I'm thinking logically. Logically speaking, those entities that they're summoning must be lame because they're always trying to do stuff with us. So obviously they can't do anything, or else they wouldn't be talking to us. They're always in some deal with us. We'll give you this and you do that for us. And then, of course, we get the rod end of the stick. So they're summoning. What I do know that's true is every time these men and women join these secret societies, all of a sudden they become popular when they weren't popular before, like they blow up. I don't know what's going on in there, but I'm not really impressed by summoning the entities because they don't seem to have any power. Like, because
Well,
they're begging us to do stuff with them, or they need to get in our body and they need to move us around.
you exactly. Well, specifically, our that Christ consciousness is something that they're trying to have happen all at one time. The only way that you can uh, go from whatever realm that they're on, that they're locked into, is for the idea of them being implanted in our minds. That's what makes it real. So if they're able to control our minds, then they're able to be validated and project into they're able to go from the third dimension and trapped into other dimensions. Basically, they're able to become, they're able to get the soul. They're able, well, the only way you could do it is to trick God into believing in you. Is the simplest way I can put it, if that makes sense. You understand what I mean?
I need to think about it more.
Well,
Can I just say real quick? Um,
Go ahead, church.
I really appreciate all the information that you brought, my brother, and trust me when I say I will look into it. But I'm gonna be honest with you, and I need everybody to do this as well. People need to understand one major thing about these shows like Joe Rogan, right? These shows are controlled opposition, whether you know it or not. They are. They're promoted. They're literally they bring on different FBI agents and all this other stuff. I say this all the time. I don't know why, but America has become way too trusting in the government that's always been against us. Well, Black America more specifically. And so when I hear anything, and I'm gonna be honest with you, one of my I have several members in my family who have either ascended and went 32-degree masonry or has just left masonry. I myself have literally dabbled within masonry, and the thing that made me leave is getting into those libraries. And when they say if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book, that's only partial of what the whole situation is. If you want to hide something from a black man, you put it in a book and then you put it in the Masonic library, especially if it's not a Masonic library that is intermingled with other Masonic lodges, such as Black Masonic lodges, Prince Hall Masonic lodges, because there's still a lot of lodges that Black folks cannot go into this until this day. When I was in California, my uncle he sponsored me to become a Mason. But when I got in that library and started reading some of those books, and I realized that they were charging me to learn my own damn history, oh, I backed the hell up out of that real quick. So a lot of the stuff that I see on these Joe Rogan podcasts, and not just that, there's like shows like the Y Files and things like that, where they basically try to take away the African contributions or the Black contributions to the planet. And I immediately start questioning. And I just encourage everybody to do the same.
Well, I
Because
think you just proved my point. They have to put that pale skin, blonde, blue eyed image of God in your mind. That's the only way that they can still exist. You see what I mean? They have to
yes
place
and
God in your face.
yes and no. Like I said, there's some points where you're absolutely correct, and I'm not going to say that you're.
I apologize. That was my fault. Go ahead, hon. I'm very sorry.
So on some parts, I would agree with you. Other parts, I would say not so much. Because here's the fact: especially if you're trying to get into these type of societies and things like that, it isn't about what your per se God you worship. They tell you it don't matter what God you worship as long as you worship a God, neglecting the fact that even the devil is considered a God. So I don't want to say that they have to make you worship a certain God, but what they do is they take you from your logic, if that makes any sense. They try to pull you far away from your logic, even if it has nothing to do with godhood. Does that make any sense?
No, I know what you mean. What I'm saying is this: it's in your blood already. It's in your blood.
Absolutely,
So
yes.
you don't have to go through those degrees. And you know that. You know that. That's why you got upset when you start digging through those books. And
Absolutely.
that's why they're literally trying to get into the vehicle and the suit of God is what we're walking around in our bodies. And that's why everybody wants to get into that or either control it. You see what I'm saying? And especially our mind because of
On
what it can project and do.
No, on that I will absolutely agree with you on. Most of the stuff within the Masonic culture or any culture that's linked to Masonry, period, is literally just rituals that circled around basically trying to be like the black man. And that's just what it is. If you look into the story of Hiram Abiff or anything else, you're literally going to see white folks trying to pretend to be black folks. That's why you see these people who end up becoming Shriners, and they're wearing these caps
Mm-hmm.
that have these Arabic writings all over it, but the sigil on it is literally a sword cutting off the head of a Moor. So like
Right.
the more you get into these situations and start understanding it, you'll see it and get upset. Like you said, I did. I absolutely got upset after understanding that. And shout out to Tariq Nasheed, because if it wasn't for Hidden Colors 1 and 2, I wouldn't have understood any of that. I'm gonna be 100% with you, and that's what made me get real pissed off, is the fact that I had already seen Hidden Colors 1 and 2, and when I went through this situation, I'm being told that I have to basically pay to get the same information that I got from my brother Tariq Nasheed on the low low. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I agree with you on some ends, but on other ends, like I said, we just have to be very, very careful, because there is such thing as controlled opposition. And trust me when I say, these secret societies have more controlled opposition than you think the government have. And I'm just being real on that.
Okay. Last thing I want to ask you, because you're pushing back. Um, the reason why that hit me so hard of what Eric Weinstein said is because I already knew that, but it's different when you're getting confirmation when somebody's actually saying what you were already told. There's a lot of stuff I don't talk about that I know, because I don't. It's important that there are people who don't know certain things, so that there's a possibility that another outcome can happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're all right. So
Yes.
when you need the control, you need the placebo. All right. So that's the free radical there. So
But can I ask you this question? Because you just said we need a
We
placebo.
need to go to some of the hands, so can we
I
put it
apologize,
together?
Miss Wani. Yeah, I apologize, Miss Wani. I'll
That's okay.
land there. I'll land there.
you
All right,
bet.
we're gonna go to
That's okay. I just wanted to, sometimes we get like we're talking on the phone and then the other people can't say anything.
let's. I'm curious to hear what Trey Day has to contribute to this.
The seventh was
Oh, seven. Oh, let's go ahead, seven. Then
it's
Trey
a
Day.
little while. I wanted to hear Trey Day too.
Go ahead, seven. I didn't see you down there, brother.
Oh,
Seven.
Seventh
oh,
is just
hi.
gonna say
Good
no, those
evening.
things don't exist.
Nah, well, yeah, y'all had mentioned CERN and about yeah, CERN. It's actually in France, and the Large Hadron Collider. It borders the Swiss-French border, and there's nothing special going on there. It's just basic particle physics research. I've known people who to go there to do research. I could have probably gone there to do research. But I'm not interested in particle physics. I'm more of a condensed matter guy. So, yeah, so that's what's going on there. I yield.
But I
Now we
prefer
now we gonna have to let Mr. Freedom and the Church of Black Power speak again, because they got something to say to him.
I
Cool.
want
All
to
right,
believe
cool.
in the conspiracy theory and you just ruined it.
I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm just curious why CERN has
Let's
666 in their name. That's all.
it's a
I
little
would just
odd.
ask the
It's a
question:
lot
how
of
would
weird
you
things.
know that CERN is not doing these things if you never went to CERN? And CERN is a
Because I
hold on,
know
All they
physics.
says nothing's
hold
going
on real quick.
on.
Hold on real quick. Let me finish my question. If you've never been there, and
I
it's
apologize.
no worries, my brother. If you have never been there, and we know for certain that is a classified place, you can't just go there regardless. Your friend wouldn't be able to tell you what's going on there regardless of whether he wanted to or not. Am I wrong in that?
Yes,
Guess I'm wrong.
completely wrong.
Your friend having a certain classification at an operation, and you're telling me that he could just speak to you about what he's doing in that operation.
There's no secret research going on there. It's all open. You can go download the research.
My brother, is there certain classifications when you go to CERN? You can look this up right
You
now.
probably have to have credentials to go there. Yeah, they just don't let
So
anybody
there
walk
are
through the
certain
door. It's
there's
not military. It's not military research. It's
okay.
not like
So
at a national
there are
laboratory where you
certain
got nuclear
classifications.
weapons and stuff like that.
Okay. There, so as you said, there are certain classifications that you would need. There are certain things
Yeah,
that you
they're not
would
going to
need
let you in
in
there because you're not qualified to go there.
okay. And just like they wouldn't let me in there, they wouldn't let somebody who is classified, who is a scientist there, talk to me who is not classified and tell me what they're doing as a project within CERN. Am I right?
No, you are wrong. I will give you names of people who do research there, and you can email your ass off and ask them all the questions you want.
Okay, Sister Wani, I see why you say he's just going to deny.
He's never gonna. He
Maybe.
refuses to let me have a conspiracy theory.
Well, this isn't even a conspiracy. It's just like working with the government here. We can't go into just any government facility if you don't have the clearance. If you're not cleared to do these things, you
Let
don't
me
have
ask a.
that classification.
I wouldn't let you in
Let,
my laboratory. You're not qualified to
now
go
you
in my
guys are
laboratory.
mad. Let me ask a question.
I'm not mad. It's crazy. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Go
So the reason they want everybody to believe in something, they don't care if I believe in Jesus and you believe in this and that and the other thing. They want you to believe in something because anybody want to answer? They want you to believe in something. It's if you go in there and you say, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in any of that, blah, blah, blah. They don't want you in there. You need to believe in something because
if you
you will
believe.
be summoning entities. And if you don't believe in entities, you're not going to be very good at summoning them, are you?
Wow, that's interesting.
It's like people who don't believe in ghosts. A lot of the time, if you believe in ghosts, you're going to have a lot more experiences throughout your life that you're going to see or actually have a feeling of those instances, even if it's something so small like the little hairs coming up the back of your neck.
The seven doesn't believe in hairs on your neck or ghosts.
What?
Got to make them a believer. We got to convince you that we
Go.
have hairs on the back of our necks.
I got hairs in my ears. I got.
Uh oh.
So you admit there's hairs on your neck
So you
because there's
admit that we
hair
have
in your
hair.
ears, right?
Got him.
All
Gotcha.
right, we're gonna get a couple more speakers and call it a night. I think Trey Day was up next. Trey Day, and shed some light on this subject.
What's good? What's good, everybody? What's up, Nikki? What up, Wani? What up, Professor?
What up, bro?
Man, cooling, cooling. Interesting topic, man. Yeah, I like to listen, man. I like to listen. I learned some things here, in this space. But as far as does everybody have a soul? No. I think we know from the Hermetic text that the Egyptians said the greatest problem was that they created a man.
Hello.
Yeah, and this man does not have a soul. I
Could
think
could
y'all
that
know.
man be Germanic?
I think so. I
Oh
think so.
Lord, them again.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they are, in my opinion, I even think that they hijacked the word antichrist. I think that they are the antichrist. I think according to Bobby Hemmett, everybody's goal in this lifetime, in this life cycle, within the 6,000 year time frame that was, spelled out for this hell, is to basically become a god. They're not supposed to, wait for Jesus or the Christ figure. They're supposed to become a Christ figure themselves, and failure to do so will result in termination. That's what Bobby Hemmings said. Bobby, he spoke on this, pretty candidly and pretty brashly, but he was speaking about the things that were required to reach this Christ consciousness and whatnot. And in my opinion, this society is specifically designed to prevent the masses of people from even understanding that, let alone reaching it. Um, I'm not too sure about what Simeon Toko's life was like, but of course, we spoke on this a couple of weeks ago. The guy in Angola who was supposedly a return of Christ or a Christ figure of sorts that the Pope acknowledged that the actual Pope is going to make insert in the Bible and Revelations to say that Christ had came back. And this happened in 1960, which, if you remember, this is when the civil rights movement and decolonization and all that stuff happened. So, did that scare some sense into the white folk? I think so. I don't think that they just randomly started, showing, black folk, that they recognize our humanity just out of the kindness of their heart in the 1960s. I think it was something a lot deeper than that. And Simeon Toko made a prophecy saying that, whatever he was, there was going to be a lot more of him to come in the future. And there's nothing that the white people who feared him can do. And with that, given the fact that, these people, when they don't have any restraint, would do the absolute worst, which is genocide. I don't think these people willingly just gave up, their the throne they had prior to the 1960s, just out of the kindness of their heart. And yeah, I think the society is, designed to, keep people from reaching a level of consciousness that is required to make it to the next life cycle. So what does that mean for the rest of everybody? The Bible speaks about 144 people, making it to the, heaven and whatnot. But what does that really mean? There are 7 billion people on this earth. So, does that mean that,
I
only
thought it was
100?
144,000.
Yeah, it's 144,000.
What did I say?
144.
144. I
That's
was
what I
like,
meant.
I think
That's
it's
what I
most
meant.
everybody
144K.
on the
I
planet.
forgot to put the
So
K at the end. Yeah, my bad. Y'all got to put the K at the end. But yeah, 144,000. Those folk, are those going to be the few that, that's not even a 0.000% of the world's population that, will, supposedly reach that consciousness. So, what does that really mean for humanity? I mean, to me, I see white folk, their behaviors. Look at this shit on X. Like look at this shit every day that Elon Musk and the US government is trying to migrate everybody on. Like look at what white folk are trying to do. In my opinion, they're trying to spread their thought processes to, people who aren't exactly them but desire to be them, i.e. non-black people, but people of quote unquote color. I think that they're basically empowering them to be devils. White people, they know they're doomed. They accept that they have 6,000 years. They know what's coming. But I think that what they're doing in these because right now they're kicking and screaming right now. This Twitter is proof of them kicking and screaming. I mean, look at all these pages dedicated to smearing black people and dehumanizing black people and all that. I mean, this is white people's last stand. This imaginary place called Twitter, where they're trying to migrate everybody to and make them think the way they think. But in my opinion, I think that the grand finale of the whites is to drag other people down with them. Because, the prophecy says that the quote unquote Negus is coming back. The Negus was the Pharaoh, the nigga who reached Christ consciousness. Jesus, Yeshua, whatever you want to call him, is represented by a serpent. I know that much. Um,
That's the trick, though.
yeah. I mean, they demonize the serpent, but it's represented by the serpent. And that being said, they kind of know that ties to us, or not kind of. They know that that ties to us.
Could the serpent be
And
like the Kundalini energy?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, that's what they made a movie called The Last Dragon. That's talking about the Kundalini energy, Leroy and that glow. That's the whole metaphor. That's what the quote unquote Pharaoh had. He had that glow on the inside. They made it, a cult movie, but that's what it's talking about. The boy with that glow. That's a prophecy. Jesus. They make cartoons about it. Aang, the last the cartoon, the last Airbender. All that stuff talks about a Christ consciousness coming back, a special person with a power inside of him that could revolutionize and topple whatever power was in the world today. And I think it's a
who did
prophecy.
Show Enough represent?
What's that?
I said, who did Show Enough represent?
Sure enough, man. I think that's just a character. I
Show
think that's just a character.
Enough
I haven't looked that deep into show enough to be honest. Maybe it might be something more to it, but that hey, it could be. I might have to look deeper into show enough. But I
Show
know
Enough
who Leroy was.
the exact opposite of what Leroy could have become. The same thing with Samael and Emmanuel in the Bible. They're both supposed to be polar opposites, right?
Because he had that glow too. You're right. Because he had the glow too. You're right. But he used it for bad. Correct. I didn't think about that. But yeah, Leroy was the one, he overcame him though. Those were like two dragons battling. The dragon is the Uraeus or the Kundalini energy of the winged serpent. So you saw two dragons battling in that movie. More than one people can reach Christ consciousness, just so you know. And some motherfuckers might not be righteous, as righteous as they should be. They might have the discipline to reach it, but they might not be as good as they should be. So, there will be battles when people reach this Christ consciousness. That's a prophecy, that were in the past. Multiple people reached Christ consciousness in Egypt. There were battles between the Pharisees. Who's gonna reign supreme? That's what it is. But at the end of the day, the people without souls, they're here to distract us. Everything about them is a distraction. I mean, look at what they're doing to us as foundational Black Americans. Look at this trolling they're doing, just telling people that our culture is theirs. It's just driving us batshit crazy. But it's a trolling mechanism though. It's a trolling mechanism that they're using to distract us.
That's why I'm a super troll.
Right, right. I already know.
That's my, retirement job.
That's what I'm saying. Right. But these folk, man, that's what I'm saying. Like this Twitter and this X. I mean, this is I mean, the fucking tethers playing all of our heroes. I mean, this like Professor said, they're trying to evoke something. Who are they poking and prodding the most? Who are they
Us.
poking and prodding? It's something special
Everybody is
about
poking
us.
and prodding us.
It's something
Everybody on
special
the
about us.
planet.
It's something within us that's going to come out. Um, and I think, they're just kind of fidgeting around with it, but the white folk know they about to get fucked up. And ultimately, I think they're trying to drag Asians in with them, Hispanics. They're giving them what they know is owed to us. They know it's going to piss us off. This is absolute spit in the face. So I mean, this is something that, I think they're trying to evoke, as Professor said. This is, I just got my popcorn. I'm
Now
not.
let's get back to these, because I know these Masonic groups and stuff like that. It looks very innocent on the bottom, bake sales and things like that. And it doesn't get real interesting till you start moving on up, higher and higher on the pyramid. Then it starts to get a little bit summoning entity-fied.
Okay,
Anybody want to
get past
talk
that
about it?
34.
Hmm?
Get past that 33 and 34 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you because of the fact, like I said, none of my family members was even able to go past the 33rd degree. I have a 33rd degree. That's one of my uncles, and then my mother's godfather. He was a 32nd degree, and even in those situations, they told me like once you get to that level, because for them they were social climbing, right? For me, that's not what I was doing. I was going in because I thought that it was my legacy and I would learn all about my people and all this other stuff. But then I realized, like I said, thanks to Tariq Nasheed and the one and two hidden colors, the first two, that everything that I went in there and paid for in order to learn, I had already knew. And that's the problem for me. And I wasn't able to really go any further than that because I refused to pay for something that belongs to me. Now, yes, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Most of the people that I've spoken to that made it past that 33rd degree, they've been some evil people. I'm gonna be honest. I
Yep.
turned my back on all of them folks. Like they're just their way of thinking is 100% different. If that makes any sense. Like you
So
can
it changed?
yes, you can hear the
Oh, wow.
evilness in the way people speak because there's no empathy in the way they speak. It's no
Okay,
logic
eugenics,
in the
like,
way they speak. There's no like education in the way they speak. Even if they have all the knowledge, they're only concentrated on a portion of what their goal is. And that's what that is. And I've had several people around me that I literally stopped kicking with because of the fact that I'm like, dog, you're evil.
Yep.
You think Dr. Evil was bad? No, 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 no. Mini Me was the bad mother effer. And these people out here running around like Mini Me. And I'm like, nah, I can't be around you, my nah, fella, go that way. You dig what I'm saying?
Could you give us some
Especially
concrete examples?
Okay, so
Mm,
a friend of mine who used to be a friend of mine, he was Caribbean. I think he was Cuban and Jamaican, if I'm remembering correctly. So this dude grew up in the church, right? And so he was um, already within the brotherhood before I even stepped into it. He was into it for probably about 5 or 6 years before I even got into it. And one of the things that they tell you is Masons don't go recruiting, right? In order to become a Mason, you have to ask a Mason to become a Mason. And then you have to have a sponsor in your either in your family or somebody who's very close to you. Then they got to come and do a home interview. And there's a lot to become a Mason, basically, right? After all this gets done, and I find out that this isn't for me, I'm still kicking it with this person back and forth, right? We're not always around each other, but like almost, let's say, 2 times out of the month, we would get together almost every Saturday because that was our free time. Both of us off work. And we would go out to the bars and things like that, go talk to women and everything like that. This man's mother was so strict. When I say the way he was basically raised to have respect for women 100% fold. And when I say 100% fold, I mean 100% fold. His mother was one of those type of people. If she heard him talking on the phone and disrespecting like one of his girlfriends, she would literally walk up and smack him in the back of his head. Like that was the type of person he was. After he ascended, we went out, and this was the last time that I saw him. We went out to this bar that our friend owned, and I didn't really drink that much. He drunk probably less than me, so I know he wasn't drunk, right? One of the females that was at that bar that night, I don't know what she did to this dude, but I went inside. I went to the bathroom. I came out. He was on the back patio, and they had this smoke area in the back patio where they used to do hookah and all this other stuff. And when I say this dude thought process had just changed completely, not only did this person, I guess, someone told me that he had hit her because she had pushed him or something like that. And then when I walked out the door, he was like stomping on her head, right? And so he ends up going to jail. I end up speaking to him maybe a few weeks later, like after he gets out on bail, and he calls me and he's like, "Bro, what happened?" And I'm like, "What do you mean what happened? You know what happened. You were there. You were in your body." And he's like, "No, bro, I don't remember nothing."
maybe the demon that he was summoning got in him for a minute.
And my point exactly, not just that. And they say
Weird.
when you drink, and a lot of the times when you're like studying within the system of the ancient mysteries, right, they tell
Hmm.
you not to be drinking like that, right? Because
Alcohol.
spirits are
Oh,
spirits.
cool.
You feel what I'm saying? And so that's why I brought up the fact that I know for a fact that he wasn't drinking that much because I drunk very little and he drunk less than me. I had maybe about two shots of scotch, and this dude had like one whiskey sour or something like that. And literally everything just went crazy left. And I never expected this from this dude because, like I said, his father is a preacher. So it was like, there's a lot of stuff behind the
And he seemed
scenes.
genuinely not to know what happened.
Yes. And I'm be honest with you,
Interesting.
me explaining to him what happened, he started crying on the phone because he didn't remember any of this. And so I tell people all the time to be very careful. So when you brought up the shaman, when he was telling you not to go into the astral
Not to astral
projections and
project.
things like
Yeah.
that, I've
Yeah.
astral projected twice in my whole damn life, and both times, one of them was accidental, and then the other time, I guess you could say, was partially accidental. I just realized where I was, and by that time, I had did enough studying on it not to get stuck, right? Because
Mhm.
I was able to sit up, but I wasn't able to like.
What caused you to accidentally do it the first time?
Uh, a lot of the times they tell you that people accidentally go through the astral projection is when they wake up from like their deep sleep, and when they trying to go back to sleep, they don't go back into a deep sleep. They go to like their REM sleep, if that's what.
Okay, so it was a sleep incident.
That shit
Right.
happened to me before. It's terrifying.
And so that's when a lot of people, they will literally wake up with their body sleeping and their mind awake. And so
Yes.
they think that it's a succubus situation. A lot of
Sleep
the times,
paralysis,
right?
yeah.
A lot of the times it's not sleep paralysis. My brother, he tell me
Right.
all the time, he was like, I had a succubus on my chest last night. I'm like, no, bro, your body was sleeping, your mind was awake. Just chill.
Could be a bad date from Tinder, you know.
But that was one of the things that I learned to control as well. When, like I said, the second time I didn't get so freaked out because I didn't know what was going on. I realized, okay, so my body's awake. Excuse me, my mind's awake, my body's asleep. Okay, I just kept telling myself to do things, and then eventually I ended up sitting up. So there are ways to break out of the paralysis. It's
That's the way you're so that's the whole way that you do it, by the way, if you want to try it, anybody. You must trick your body into believing it's sleep. So basically what you're trying to do is every time you go to sleep, you leave your body. You just don't remember it normally. So you're trying to uh, go to sleep, but not be unconscious, which is very hard to do. You've got to lay still for at least 30 minutes or more to trick your mind into believing. It's a very difficult process. And it does feel like your soul is leaving your body. It's very dramatic. And sometimes it can happen if someone is, scared. I've seen people terrified and it happens to them, but I'm speaking about doing it in a controlled manner. But after I saw that little girl die and that other woman take over, I don't think I want to try to do it anymore because that's one of the dangers, they say.
But Wani, I'm gonna be honest with you. I watched that special on that old lady, and that basically had the reincarnation of an Egyptian princess within her, right? I watched that, and I truly feel like that. I don't want to say it only can happen to certain people without souls. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know.
Is that that's not even reincarnation though. That's like a step in.
Right.
That's like what they would call she just jumped in that other girl's stuff and didn't even bother to get born in this somebody new. You know
But
what I'm saying? It's just a little bit weird. But go ahead.
Wouldn't that
well,
be
my point,
considered a goal?
I kind of just, this is just my belief. I believe that you can step into a body that doesn't have a soul per se, but you can't just step into a
Right.
body with a soul already, if that makes
Right.
any sense.
There's something going on with that little girl where she, like I said, the doctor declared her dead, left the room, came back to do some paperwork, and she was sitting straight up. And then we were discussing earlier that people have different types of souls. Like one is just animating you, and the other one is your real personality and your
Mhm.
spirit and everything about the essence of you, not just you being able to walk around. So maybe that little girl had a lowly developed soul, or maybe she just left her body completely.
Maybe
I
she
don't
just
know.
never had a soul to begin with.
It's very bizarre. And that woman, like I said, she's one of the most convincing people because you don't go over to Egypt and read hieroglyphics. That's unheard of.
Or you're not going to tell people where you have an archaeological garden, right?
Right,
Like
right.
out of nowhere, you can
She's
literally
90,
just point
she's
it out.
100%. She's 100% on her pointing things out. So she's way better than Edgar Casey. She's 100% on pointing things out. So she's never been caught wrong on her stuff. No, I don't know what's going on with her, but it's very bizarre.
All I say is this: when I learned it was a napkin woman, I was like, yeah, it's probably because she didn't have a soul in the first place. And the first time she got knocked out, or whatever the situation was, it then opened up the door. You get what I'm saying? Not
It sure did.
All right, we're gonna get a one more speaker. I think the Black was waiting, and then we're gonna call it a night. Black, what's on your mind?
What's going on, Professor One and Nikki? You know how this kind of it keeps on reminding me of the show Lovecraft Country, and I kind of see why they canceled it because it encompasses all of this that we have talked about on this in this conversation. So it's really crazy to me because it incorporates the Masonic side and how white people kind of want to suppress our real history and our connection and siphon our energy for themselves, but they can never contain it because their bodies is like a diluted version of a real soul, and it can't contain all the energy. Because if you remember the white dude ended up exploding when he siphoned some of Jonathan Major's little power. And it's funny how he was the rightful heir to the Masonic legacy. So
Descendant of Titus.
yeah, yeah, and most of it, and the white people wasn't. And like I believe it's it's the truth in a bit of everything. I just don't believe our elders just came up with these stories out of their ass. Like just the imagination that they had, like you had to see something similar to this to even describe the things that you seen. So I feel like that's why we developed the vocabulary that we have, because they were saying some crazy things, and they was more tapped into the earth back then than we are. We've been distracted by all this electricity messing with our aura and the food and all this propaganda. So we really don't know what truly is the real truth. But it's interesting that a lot of these masons, especially like when it comes down to black masons, most of them originate in the Caribbean for some reason. Uh, or they was bred in the Caribbean and sent her like the Prince
George
Albert,
James.
huh?
George James, who wrote Stolen Legacy, he was a Caribbean Freemason, and when he wrote that book, they killed him in Masonic fashion. They took his liver out, his spleen out, they
Yeah,
took certain organs out, and they spread his body out, and they placed his organs in a certain. It ain't funny, but like they placed him in a certain direction because he spilled the beans. He
yeah,
told, yeah, they did him dirty.
They killed him like Osiris.
yeah.
Yeah. They put his organs in a certain direction and laid him out.
That's how
yeah.
they do a lot of people. They kill them in symbolic ways or on symbolic days, on certain days of the calendar. Like especially a lot of our celebrities when you insert numerology, because you know these people use numerology and different quotes of the Bible to uh, validate some of the evil things that they do, even though we're not supposed to be living under that certain covenant anymore. But
And using the wrong numerology at that.
yeah,
Continue, family.
because it's backwards. I mean, everything is displaced and disjointed. We not even uh in the right equilibrium to even understand a lot of these things that they scared of. That's why they keep on talking about they ready to move and leave Earth, because and talking about global warming, because I feel like the Earth is to the point it's going back to that tropical era where the whole world was black, and that's what they've been trying to stay away from. And if,
Hey, did
if I
y'all?
could put on my Dr. York hat for a minute, it reminds me like the little Namuru stories that they talk about, Planet X coming back when the brother Trey was talking about the African king. And like they always talk about some type of black
Hey, did you
space
hear
alien
what
coming
color they
back.
said that planet was though? Because you know they say it's the son of the sun, but they say it's like a purple color, like a purple haze or something. Like
Yeah,
it'll change the whole like the shit won't like it won't even be yellow outside. They said it'll be like a different color or some shit. Like that's some shit I heard.
yeah. And when you look at all these caves, like these people came from some type of caves, and we break down Dr. Dilbert Blur and the things he was breaking down on certain levels, and these people coming back, and a lot of different groups that lot of different species that they was talking about in the Bible that live under earth or underground uh may come out. It's interesting. Like I feel like we going into a new era where we might start seeing some man in black type of things happen.
Oh,
You,
it's gonna happen. But the black in the shrine and in the lodge, Dr. York was they call him Brother John. All right. And what you spoke about is there's a battle that's going back and forth, but I wish I could talk more, but honestly, it's just gonna happen. Think some things don't really need to be said. Just even listening to the conversation and the people that's talking, it's not really necessary. But I will say this: the church, I did I did give Wani the answer, and the professor. If you may need to listen back to it, I try to say things pretty simply, but I did give the answer. It's not a psyop. I did give the answer.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've enjoyed y'all. I've learned a lot. If you look in the Jumbotron, you'll find Wani Spots and Nikki the Guy's Cash App. Show them love. Also, you'll find my Cash App. If you want a copy of my book, put $25 on it. Put your full address and full name and zip, and it will go out shortly. If you purchased a book last week, I sent them out yesterday, so you should be receiving them shortly. Was a Queen of England English? No. She was of Germanic lineage. Furthermore, what we didn't mention is she was a druid. I dare y'all to get on YouTube and look up the funeral of Queen Elizabeth and look at the beginning. The 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 I don't know what you call him, but he was like the master of ceremonies or whatever. Took her magic wand and broke it in half and put it on her casket. She had a magic wand made out of Hollywood. Let me say that shit one more time. The Queen of England had a magic wand. Given the fact she had a magic wand made out of Hollywood, what do you think that makes her? Think about that for a minute. Does everybody have a soul? The answer is no. Somebody mentioned George M. James. I didn't know he died like that, Trey Day. That's crazy. But I have I got a couple copies of Stolen Legacy, and that book be spilling the beans. Uh, George M. James talks about the Ka and the Ba in Stolen Legacy. Basically, there's animus, there's a spirit, and there's a soul. And according to Bobby Hemmett, animals have spirits. Spirits is animus, it animates you. But a soul is something special. A soul is a sun. Um, Everybody has a fragment of the sun, which goes back to the original story of a theology written on the Shabaka stone. Out of the darkness came life. The darkness, as the story goes, the darkness began to breathe, the darkness began to dream. Then the darkness began, it could do what it dreamed about. Let there be light. God created the universe and put himself in it. We're all fragments. Those of us with souls are fragments of the creator. We're descendants of the creator.
Can I say
Um,
one more thing, my brother?
Go ahead.
That's also why every human has a solar plex.
Yep. And that's why if you look at pictures of Jesus, go type in Jesus Christ and hit images, it's a sun behind his head. Y'all missed that one, didn't you? And was it Father, Son, Holy Ghost? It wasn't S-U-N. It wasn't S-O-N. It was S-U-N. It's in your face. The best place to hide something is in your face. And, skew a story. And
So Akhenaten was right.
uh,
Akhenaten was absolutely right, to be honest with you. He was.
give me context. Was right about what?
I I would say that he was right because what he was trying to do is take all the different, because what people say is that Akhenaten took all the different religions and unified them under the sun medallion, and that
Oh
was never
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
case. That was never the case at all. What he did was take it back to the whole story of Haru and Set. Once again, the duality, the good versus evil, the light versus dark. Basically, that's what he did.
Uh,
So I
Right.
would say he was right.
I did want to say this real
Did
quick that
you?
the more people, this might sound, these conversations might sound wild, but take it from somebody who knows. The more you know this kind of information, and you it doesn't make you go crazy, you'll be allowed to have more powers. This actually helps towards the reparations push. The more that you know it, just saying.
Oh yeah. Well, I enjoyed y'all. I'm about to call it a night. Wani, did you have anything else?
No. Good night, everybody.
Okay.
We're gonna do something similar tomorrow.
Oh, we will. And Nikki, did you have anything else?
No, good night, everybody.
I enjoyed y'all. I actually learned a lot tonight, and I'm gonna go. Get,
Peace, everybody. Have a good night.
oh
It's
yeah,
Twizzle.
Twizzle was up. I'm gonna get George M. James book, and we'll have something similar tomorrow. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace out.